Hi, this is Luis Souza from rawveganpower.com, and I'm here today with a very charming guest, Sara Fuller from crazyrawvegan.com. She has lots of nice recipes in her blog, and I'm so excited to talk to her today. Welcome, Sara Fuller. It's so nice to have you here today and to be able to talk about your crazy raw vegan life.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Well, first of all, I would like you to share your story because, as you mentioned in your about session in your blog, it's a little crazy the way you got into a vegan diet, right?
It was a long journey, I think.
Yes.
Um, Basically, it started probably about 10 years ago. I realized that red meat and cheese really didn't agree with me. Um, and living in Australia, both of those things are in abundance and very much tied, as they are in America, I suppose, to social life. So um, I cut back a lot in the last couple of years that I was there, and it was just really hard to make a full transition to either vegetarian or vegan. And I had a small matter of a cheese addiction to deal with as well.
Really?
Yeah. It's funny, when you tell people that you're vegan, they say, well, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm addicted to cheese. And I said, well, I think I was addicted to cheese too. I said, no, you couldn't possibly be if you've gone vegan. But
People don't
no,
believe it.
no.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, so I moved to London about 6 years ago and just showed up and said I was vegetarian. And started feeling a lot better actually, having just cut out all the meat. Dairy was still a problem, but I had my addiction to deal with. And actually, while I was in London, I met two really wonderful raw vegans. And at the time, I didn't really know much about it, except that these two individuals were just the most vibrant, glowing, energetic, wonderful people I'd ever met. And so I think it sort of stuck in the back of my mind that London's a very crazy place. I was going out a lot and probably not living the healthiest lifestyle. And yeah, it wasn't really until I moved to Boston about 3.5 years ago that I again sort of showed up somewhere new and declared that I was going vegan. And not only vegan, but raw vegan.
Yeah, and one thing interesting in your story is that you took advantage of your moving, right? When you go to some new place, you can start all over, make new friendships and so on.
Yeah.
Did that make it easier for you to make the transition?
I think it did. Um, I hate to think what I would be eating if I was still in Australia back home with all my friends. Um, I talk to a lot of people through my blog about the transition and how hard it is socially. So I think I've had a little bit of an advantage, that I've just picked up and moved. But it is one of the harder parts of going raw, I think.
And then you started blogging. It would be 2 years ago or something.
Yep, it was about 2 years ago. Crazy Raw Vegan is actually my third attempt at raw vegan blogging. So
Oh, really? You had the
yeah,
two other
I had two other ones,
attempts.
but couldn't really find my voice. I think the first one was all about what I was learning about protein and calcium, and I'm not qualified to give out medical advice, so that got a bit tricky. Um, and I played around with some other things, but I think it was easier to really create a little bit of a persona about this, around the crazy raw vegan concept.
Yeah, and I'm gonna share your screen here while we talk. And it's very cool because you have, I love your style now. And particularly this picture pictures here. I think they are really eye grabbing, eyeball grabbing. It's you can't come to this page and don't see this and take a look and we can we start focusing to understand what's happening. It's really good. Your photographer was good as well. And
Thank you. Yeah, I have a great friend in London who's an art director.
yeah, he did a great job there.
Yeah.
And how do you create your recipes? Because you have lots. You have breakfast, main, sweet, savory, drinks, cooked. Oh, you have some cooked too.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? I mean, now that you found your voice.
I think, to start with, it was, there's some recipes on there that aren't mine, which I've referenced. So I think that was sort of a starting point. But then once I got into, understanding the basics of raw food preparation, I just experimented. Um, Different salads, different dressings. I really got addicted to raw pastas there for a while. So, some of it's trying to recreate recipes that I loved that were cooked. So I have, some creamy rosé raw pasta sauces that I created, and the creamy mushroom pasta sauce that's raw. I know, and smoothies and sweets are really easy. So it's just about experimenting with different quantities of things and throwing some things in the dehydrator and some things in the blender and seeing what happens.
And in 2012, you won, you were elected one of the top 50 raw food blogs. That's really impressive. I think I would love to get this.
Yeah, thank you. It was a bit of a surprise, actually. They didn't tell me. So it wasn't until people started finding my blog through this page called the Institute for the Psychology of Eating that I sort of clicked through and had a look to see what was going on. And there was a list of 50 top raw blogs. So
That's very cool.
Yeah, very surprising.
I think the psychology part of this, I think this could have influenced it because the name of your blog is very cool, right? And the way you are getting people to look at the raw vegan diet, it's very interesting. Because would you say that raw vegans are a little crazy by nature?
I guess you have to be a little crazy to go, a lot of people see it as quite an extreme kind of diet. So I think that's where my friends were coming from when they said crazy. I'm probably also just a little crazy anyway. So,
But you don't seem so crazy. I don't know what you mean.
That's behavior, Lewis.
You seem a very beautiful woman and normal. I don't see the
How do we
craziness.
define normal?
I agree. Now I agree with you. Well, and what would be a day in your diet nowadays? What would be your breakfast and lunch and snacks, dinner?
So
A typical day in your diet, what would be?
A typical day is hard. I work in the city, so I have a lot of work lunches and dinners and nights out. So it's a little bit tricky. I do try and start every day with, I have a bit of a process in the morning. So I get up and while I'm in the shower, I do oil pulling, which is basically just swirling a cold pressed oil like sesame oil in your mouth for about 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Your teeth are very white, by the way.
It helps with that. So it helps clean your teeth, and it helps draw out all the toxins that build up in your body overnight. So I do that in the shower, and then I have a glass of fresh lemon juice in warm water.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go about my business and get ready for work, and then I'll make some fresh vegetable juice before I go into the office. And then I typically take a green smoothie of some kind with me to eat when I get there. On days when I go to the gym in the morning, which is a little bit sporadic, I'll take a green smoothie and have it after my workout. So I'll probably put extra bananas in on those days, a bit of extra potassium and goodness. Yeah, some days I'll take my chia seed pudding pots. It's one of my favorite and actually most popular recipes on the blog. So that's a good
What is the recipe?
chia seeds.
Chia seeds.
Yeah, so I have about chia seeds, cashews, coconut milk, dates, vanilla, bit of salt, and I have a habit of collecting glass jars. So I put them in little pots, single-serve pots with blueberries or something on top, and then take them into the office.
And what do you do by work, for curiosity? Do you work in this nutritional field?
I don't. I work in the finance industry.
Oh, totally
So
different.
totally different. I actually work with the human resources department to develop people strategies. So not in finance itself, but that's the industry that I work in. So a little bit removed. I think I'm doing my MBA at the moment, and I'm not sure what I want to do when I'm finished. But I think I actually want to move somewhere closer to I don't know, nutrition or health coaching or something. So stay tuned.
Fantastic. We can make another interview in the future then.
All right.
Well, did you notice any improvement in your overall performance in your work with vegan diet?
I did. This is very embarrassing. When I was working in London, I was eating a lot of gluten, which makes me really sleepy. So I've stopped doing that. But there were times I was consulting. There were times where I'd fall asleep after lunch in meetings with clients. So yeah,
It's a little embarrassing.
pretty
I see what you
embarrassing.
mean.
Couldn't do anything about it, and that was just the power of gluten. It
Mhm.
just really slows down my system and makes me really tired. So I think coming off gluten and a lot of dairy and heavy foods, it gave me a lot more energy. Especially the initial detox period. You go through your detox and you have bad days and breakouts, and you're like, what am I doing to myself? But once you get through that, I had a lot more energy. My eyes were wider, my skin's clearer, my hair's shinier. It's great, and I can get through a whole day without falling asleep. So, so that's
And
good.
that's really fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you drink coffee? No coffee, right?
No, I've never drank coffee. A bit of tea, but I've moved from black caffeinated tea to caffeine-free teas. So I drink a lot of herbal teas.
It's really amazing how people eat a gluten diet and then they feel sleepy and then they
Yeah.
drink coffee and then it's
Yep. Eat
unbalanced.
sugar. Yeah. Then they
Yeah, and
crash.
sugar and crush and the thing goes like this all the day, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is.
I,
I've
I,
actually I've talked to a lot of people about green smoothies. That's my favorite thing to talk about with people when they have issues with their health. And people that start replacing their morning coffees with green smoothies just cannot believe the result. People lose. One guy I know lost about 40 pounds just taking the sugar out of his coffee and cutting out his morning coffee and having green smoothie instead.
It's
It's just,
fantastic, isn't it?
it is.
As soon as someone starts changing just the breakfast, everything changes, right?
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. And what about your family? I think you are married, right? Or
I have a very serious boyfriend.
oh, almost married then.
We're not married yet.
Is
No.
he raw vegan too?
No. He's an omnivore,
Hmm.
but he has changed his diet quite a lot actually since I went vegan. So I was vegetarian when I met him, um, and vegan was hard. 100% raw vegan was really hard because it was separate meals all the time, and it just got tricky. But he travels a lot, so that alleviated the pressure a little bit. Um, but he really likes all my vegan meals, especially the cooked stuff. He's not a fan of the gourmet raw foods. But he has juice. I make juice for him. He loves the fruit leathers, the salad dressings, stuff that's not too extreme on the
Hmm.
raw spectrum. He likes. So and he's cut back on his dairy intake and feels good for it. So,
And what about your parents and other family members? Were
my
you able to
mom.
influence them?
I don't know. I have some friends that follow the blog, not a lot, um, but people are starting to come and ask me about it a bit more, which is interesting. My brother's girlfriend got a dehydrator and she makes him a lot of stuff. She's not raw vegan, but she eats a lot of raw vegan foods. And my mum was the one that got me into juicing, actually. She's been juicing and doing the warm lemon juice in the morning for about 15 years.
Oh,
And
cool.
she loves
Cool
it.
mom.
Yeah. So she's increasingly moving closer to vegan. She has some, chicken and things every now and then, but she doesn't eat dairy, and um, yeah, finds it amazing. So
And what would be your first advice for people who could be thinking about the raw vegan diet?
I think my advice is don't put too much pressure on yourself. Coming back to this idea of the psychology of eating, I think it can be really challenging to go 100% raw and throw yourself into it and then fall off the wagon, so to speak, and start beating yourself up about it. I know I did that when I first went raw vegan. I was 100% raw for about 18 months, and then I started eating some cooked foods. And they were vegan, but I was giving myself a really hard time about it, and it's unnecessary, I think. So my advice now is just make the best decision you can every time you sit down to eat. And so it gives you a bit of flexibility if you're out with people, and if your only salad option is lettuce with some tomato, and I've been in that situation before, maybe they have a gluten-free pasta that you can have with tomato sauce, or some other option that's healthy but still appealing. So yeah,
And
that would be my
do
advice.
you eat lots of fruits or not so much many fruits?
I do eat a lot of fruit. I eat most of my fruit through smoothies. Um, and during the winter here, it's hard. So I'm based in Boston, and the winters can be a little bit long and cold, which is a change from Australia. Um, so I tend to lean a little bit more towards um, nuts and seeds probably in the winter, which is not always the best idea. But certainly now, the sun's out and spring's here and we have more selection of fruit. I eat a lot of fruit.
Okay. And how do you see the future of the raw food movement, Sarah? How do you see its growth? And
I think it's going to be huge. So just, even in the last couple of years when you've online doing research, there's a lot more industry leaders, if you like, out there really making a name for themselves. They're getting spots on national television cooking shows and creating their own juice movements and smoothie movements and have hundreds of thousands of followers. So it's great. I think it's a huge opportunity. I think society's view of health and the way that they can have an input into that is really changing. It's funny, when I first went raw vegan in Boston and went for my first medical checkup, I told the doctor that I'd just gone raw vegan, and she was a little bit worried and wasn't too judgmental, but just be really careful, and are you sure that's the right thing to do, and talked me through it. And then I stuck at it, and I went back the next year, and she's like, how are you going on the raw vegan diet? And I'm loving it. Oh, it really is the best way to eat, isn't it?
That's funny.
Yeah, so it sounded like she'd gone and done a bit of research. So hopefully the medical profession will pick up more on this managing your health through your diet. I think it's really important. Hopefully that can gain some traction.
And one thing that, I'm noticing is that the raw option is really important, right? I think you went throughout the process. You went vegetarian, vegan, and then raw vegan. When you got to raw vegan, it was a huge difference, right?
Yes, yeah. I didn't spend very long in the cooked vegan phase. It was very quickly from vegetarian to raw vegan.
Oh, okay.
But then I came back a little bit the other way and started eating a few more cooked foods. Just makes it easier with my partner. I think also too, eating, I was eating a very sort of gourmet raw vegan diet. So instead of having pasta, I was having dehydrated breads that were loaded with grains, with avocado on top, and with nuts and nut cheeses, and a lot of fats to try and replace some of the foods that I was eating before.
I see.
And I think that wasn't really working for me either. So coming back to a more simple raw vegan diet with lots of smoothies and salads, and then for dinner, sometimes I'll make vegan stir fries with rice noodles. And it's cooked, but it's lighter and it's better for me than having really dense grain-based raw vegan products. So I think it's really just about, finding your balance and what works for you.
Right. Okay, Sarah. Well, now I have my last question for you.
Okay.
It's a huge question, but the answer should be small. Just one sentence. Comparing the person you were before you were a raw vegan and the person you are now, comparing those two people,
Yep.
what is your raw vegan power?
My raw vegan power.
Yes.
I think it's a better connection with myself and with other people, and a better understanding of the way I interrelate with the world at large.
Oh, cool. I love that.
Is that okay?
For me, it's great. I actually I make this question to all my guests here, and I love to hear the answers. And this is very good because
Good. All right.
you summarize the concept, better connection with yourself and others. Great.
Yeah. I think, going raw vegan and doing juice fasts and colon cleanses and detoxes, really helps you focus in on yourself and how you respond to foods and the environment. And it can be mentally challenging, emotionally challenging, and that helps you, I think, connect with yourself and then helps your connection with other people. So,
Man, that would be a kind of intelligence, right? Because people say that there are many different types of intelligence, and and there are the ones that would be related to this, right? Social, emotional intelligence, intelligence with yourself and with others, and so on. And would you say that we get a little more intelligent with the raw vegan diet?
yeah.
Okay, I love that.
I think you can't help it. You know, you start learning more about food and the way your body works, and yeah, definitely yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. I love to talk to you, and it was very well. It was a learning experience for me here to know more about you and your experience with the raw vegan diet.
Likewise.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank
Well,
you.
and you who are watching, go now to crazyrawvegan.com and see all the great recipes that Sarah Fuller has to offer you there. And don't be so crazy not to go there, okay? Go there right now. Don't be crazy. Go
Get
there.
crazy.
Get crazy, yeah, and go there, yeah. Okay. Ciao, Sarah. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.